Hey Central Life, welcome to Church Online. From wherever you're joining us, we're so glad you're here. In just a few moments, we'll get to worship together, share an update on what we're doing in the community as a church family, and hear a message from lead pastor Ryan Alonso. Before the service is over, we'd really love it if you would take a photo, a video, or a boomerang with whoever you're watching with, and then post it to your Instagram or your Facebook stories, and then tag us. We'd really love to connect with you. Well, we hope you enjoy this service. Let's worship.
Stand against is one. Children of generations of every nation, His kingdom come. Don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth: God is madly in love with you. Take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Hey! Your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth: God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from.
Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure heart, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Swing wide, all you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus.
Swing wide,
Swing wide, all you heavens,
let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure heart, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in His blood. Jesus, light of heaven, friend forever, His kingdom come. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in His blood. Jesus, light of heaven, friend forever, His kingdom come.
What an amazing time of worship. We just love praising the name of Jesus with you. Last Sunday, our church family collected over 100 bags of groceries and supplies for families in need. Now, isn't that just awesome? But the best part is, we're doing it again. So join us this Sunday, March 29th, from 9 to 11 a.m. at any one of our locations by bringing bags of non-perishable food items or supplies such as toilet paper and hand sanitizer. If you'd like to learn more, visit our website and click on the Church Online button. With that, prepare your hearts for a message from God's Word. We hope you enjoy it.
Well, welcome everybody to Church Online. We are so glad that you're joining us today. And just like last week, here we find ourselves in a unique situation where instead of being together across our physical locations, we are gathered through multiple homes and living rooms and maybe dining room tables, maybe you snuck out to your car to get a quiet moment. Wherever you're at and wherever you're tuning in from, we are so glad that you're joining us today. We are in a short series that kind of was spontaneous as a result of the virus outbreak that happened around the world and things kind of shutting down. And, children are home out of school right now. And maybe some of you are home a whole lot more, not in the office or working like you were or whatever. And the church is feeling the same effect and not being able to gather. But our message is this: we can be hopeful and helpful even in the midst of that. And so I want to bring a second part to you today with this in mind and really just help you get the Spirit of God speaking to you clearly because you've opened your life, opened your heart to Him, and not allow or remove, if you have, the fear that can so easily get in there and tangle up your spirit and your heart. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And the first thing I want to say to you is, after being in this for a few weeks, church, we need to remain helpful. We need to remain helpful, okay? So here's what I shared this scripture with you last week, and I wanted to bring it back to you one more time. It comes from Ephesians chapter 5, and it says this: "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil." Here, the Apostle Paul writes to the church, people like you and I, and he says, listen, there is this opportune time to make wise decisions. In fact, that's what the original language actually meant, was that this opportunity he's referring to is a unique opportunity. I would say we're in a unique situation that's provided us new opportunities. And so you're experiencing that every day in your normal practical life. I wonder, have you seen yet how to seize the opportunity from a faith mindset? Have you seen how this particular moment in history, in the history of your life, take it down to the personal, has provided and afforded you an opportunity? Here's my hope, my prayer when I read that is that the Holy Spirit would lead me to the will of God for this day. That is so important that we stay aware of that fact. There's this opportunity. So how are we as a church family going to seize the opportunity? Well, I shared 3 things with you last week that I just want to touch on just briefly and update you on, remind you of, and tell you this is how you remain helpful. Number 1 is you've got to lead your family. You've got to lead your family. Can I just tell you, you should be leading your family anyway. And I'm not presuming that you weren't. I'm just saying this special hour has provided new rhythms, new schedules, new opportunities, new possibilities for your kids, for the people that you love most. And you got to lead them well. Fortunately, you have an amazing team at Central Life, a kids team who is working constantly every single day. They're going through and they're reallocating information and curriculum and videos, and they're taking everything we're doing for you and providing online church, and they're doing it for your children so that you can pick it up and you can run with it. Can I just tell you, it is paramount that you as parents, if you have little children in your home, you as grandparents, you as uncles and aunts, no matter what role you're in leading and influencing a child, you've got to own that responsibility. And you've got to share with the people around you how important it is to lead your family. So here's what I'm encouraging you to do. Pray with your kids. Just pray with them. Pray for them. Sit down and open God's word with them. Turn on some music, some worship music like you just heard a moment ago, and worship God with your children. Lead them there. Our number one responsibility as a church family is to lead our households well. If we take care of our households, God knows how to take care of his household, especially and even in a crisis, all right? So the second thing is this. Not only do we lead our families, but we've got to love our neighbors. We got to love our neighbors, okay? And I know you're not supposed to get close to anybody. I know. Social distancing, physical proximity needs to be farther than normal. I understand all that. And I encourage you, once again, take every precaution you're supposed to. But never let that be excuse for not loving your neighbor well in this unique moment. Again, we've resourced you, centrallife.org. You can go check out Love Thy Neighbor. We spent lots of time putting that together, just some initiatives for you to care for the people in your neighborhood. I'm talking about, when I say neighbors, by the way, I'm talking about your coworkers. I'm talking about your family and your friends. I'm talking about the guy, the girl who's lived next door that's been a stranger for way too long. There is 1,000 ways. You use that imagination God gave you. There's 1,000 ways you can love your neighbor in this season right now. And I'm telling you, they are open to it. They are way open to it. Maybe even more than they normally are. You know, because we live in Florida, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but we kind of almost got prepared for this moment, because we prepare for hurricanes, you know, and they're very short in comparison to what we're living in at the moment, and kind of disrupting our normal conveniences and comforts. But we almost are kind of conditioned for a little bit of this crisis. And have you ever noticed that, like, after a storm passes and all the fences are knocked down and trees are all over the place and all this cleanup's got to be done, have you ever noticed how willing people are to connect when they weren't before? That is what the Apostle Paul, I believe, was talking about. There's always an opportunity for you to be wise, to be clear with people, to love people well. And I'm telling you, you know what? Maybe if you haven't done a great job at loving your neighbors prior to this, maybe from this day forward, things could look different. Maybe from this day forward, things could change. Maybe it's simply showing up at their doorstep with some fresh baked cookies. I know some of you are like, but the virus. Okay, then wait, okay? Maybe it's just a little Post-it note that says, I was thinking about you. Maybe it's a card in their mailbox. Maybe it's I don't know what it is. Just get creative. Follow the Holy Spirit's prompting to find the will of God in this moment to love your neighbors. And the third thing is this. The third thing is we've got to serve the struggling. So I want to just give you a recap. This past weekend, you heard a little bit already, but last Sunday, we did food drives at every location, and it was drive-through. So you didn't have to get out of your car, and we followed all the precautions, did the deal. But we knew there's going to be people in our community who need some food. And you know what? There's all kinds of economic and financial needs being created by the medical issue that's going on in crisis. And we've got to pay attention to that. We've got to pay attention to it. So we got on the phone with our local authorities. We called them. How you doing? What initiatives are you exercising right now that you might need help with? And you know what we figured out was that Brevard Sharing Center, who's been a longtime partner of ours, they feed people 3 meals a day, every day of the year prior to coronavirus, by the way. We got in touch with them and we learned that they are the simplest pathway for us to make the greatest impact in our community. And so we because we already partner with them, we came alongside of them and we learned that at the beginning of last week, they were running low on their inventory of food. So we stepped in, we called you into action, and we said, listen, if you've got extra in your pantry, if you're making a run to the grocery store already, would you mind grabbing a few extra groceries? Last Sunday, a week ago today, you gathered over 100 bags and boxes of groceries and household supplies. And by Monday, just before noon, all of those supplies were delivered to Brevard Sharing Center. Here's what we learned. From 8 a.m. to noon on Monday, over 80 families came asking for food at Brevard Sharing Center. Can I just tell you how significant it is for us to gather together our resources to move in a generous way and to provide over 100 bags of groceries? The need was almost completely fulfilled that morning I don't know about Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday and today. I just know that that day there were more groceries there than there were the day before, and there were over 80 families arriving asking for food. Can I just tell you, the need is real. People are struggling. People are hurting. We need to serve them. And we need to serve them well. In fact, today at all of our locations, we're doing drive-through food drop-off again from 9 to 11 a.m. You probably heard about that. And so wherever this is coming to you in time frame, I hope you participated or plan to participate. You know, one of the things that struck me during this time is that this is an important need in our community. And one of the things that has become obvious to me, and I just want to send this as a message to the church, is this could be a little bit firm with you, but as your pastor, as your leader, I feel obligated to at least communicate this to you. I've noticed that people are far less concerned with this than they are voicing their opinions about what they do and don't like in the community right now. And what I want to share with you as a church is this. I've come to expect that from the world that we live in. I have not come to expect it from you, Central Life. And I just want you to know, as your pastor, if right now your conversations and your social media posts sound more like, if the world and if this city and if my neighborhood was a little bit more like me, then we would all be better for it. You should probably stop talking so much and start serving some people who are hurting. I just want you to know, if that's the result of what's happened around us, maybe some fear has actually found some home in your heart. And it's forcing you to say, wow, if they were as good as I am at doing this and responding to this, then we'd all be better. Well, maybe we should lead with our example of generosity and benevolence and stepping in and serving people who need it. With all that in mind, too, I want to say, and I'm your friend. I'm your pastor. I love you. I love you. I know that could be a little bit firm, but I just pray that you would seek God's heart on that and say, God, what am I saying? And what am I doing? And what about those things need to change so that they can come together and they can be unified? My mouth and my actions can be together as one. And I would just want to say a huge shout out and thank you, not only to everybody who participated in that food drive, but also to all the people not associated with our church in our communities who are speaking with their actions right now. That would be our first responders, our medical staffs and teams across Brevard County. That would be our local authorities who are making decisions that impact all of us. That would be our teachers. God bless our teachers and our principals, our administrators who have worked very hard to take what they do in the classroom every day and make it available to parents at home so that they can teach their kids. And can I just tell you that the essential work, as we've heard it in the media and from our government, the essential work that needs to continue and the non-essential that needs to fade away, I just want to elevate your view of you today, church, and understand that if God was to speak on essential work, he would most definitely include you as a church. He would say, my children, my sons and daughters are the essential workers on the planet today to respond to the struggling, to the hurting, to those who need help. Can I just tell you, church, we've got to do everything we possibly can. We've got to do everything we possibly can to remain helpful in this hour. Seize the opportunity. You know, I think sometimes we almost feel like a crisis situation like the one that we're in actually makes us and defines sort of our life. It certainly will have an effect on our life. But I want to give you this encouragement from somebody I love learning from, John Maxwell, great author and pastor and Bible teacher. He says this, he says, choices make who you are, crisis exposes who you are. And I just pray, my prayer is that right now, this crisis would expose that the church leads their families well, loves their neighbors unconditionally, and serves those in their community who are hurting and struggling. That this crisis would reveal that we are people who consider our work the most important work on the planet. And you know what? I would just tell you this, that you can make choices today. You can make choices today that are going to reshape who you are. You can make choices from this day forward to engage and to be a part of this and to seize the opportunity that's before us. I just don't know about you, but I think we have a God who's great at making lemonade out of lemons. Like, that's just who he is. Whenever there's bad news, he says, but wait, there's some good news. Whenever there's a tragedy, he says, that's awful, but can I tell you, my mercy and my grace are going to be sufficient for you, that today will pass and a new day will begin, and that God is already in your future waiting for you to arrive there. And so how do we stay in that state of mind? How do we stay hopeful? How do we do that? Because some of us right now, we go, I don't feel hopeful at all. I do not feel hopeful, right? I feel hopeless. When I tell you, I hope you can receive this today. I want to share some truth with you today I hope will help you. And if you already are feeling hopeful, I believe you won't be able to help but to be helpful. I just think hopeful people can't stop themselves from being helpful. And so keep going. But I want to share this truth with you today that I think is important. I want to give you a little background. I'm going to read to you from a passage of scripture in the Old Testament called 2 Chronicles 7. That's where we're going to go today. And the reason I chose that is because it's very, very commonly used right now. There's a specific verse in this passage that talks about praying, turning to God, seeking his face, and that he would help us. I want to give you some background to that because you probably have seen the verse, but I want to give you a little more, okay? And so in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, 2 Chronicles 7, here's what's happening. King Solomon, the king of Israel, is accomplishing the work of building the temple of God in Jerusalem. The temple of God. And if you know anything about Solomon's temple, you know that in the ancient world, it became one of the wonders of the world to go and see. People were just blown away at what was able to be accomplished by Solomon and the Israelites in that time. But they built a house for God. They built a house for God that would be permanent, not a tent like the tabernacle in the wilderness, but a permanent building there in Jerusalem. And in fact, Solomon's father, David, who you probably are more familiar with, David who killed Goliath, David who is still revered as the greatest king to ever rule Israel, David wanted to do what Solomon did in 2 Chronicles chapter 7. But God said, no, David, you're not my guy. Your son, I'm going to allow him to build the temple. He said, but David, if you'll prepare for it, if you'll lay the foundation by financially funding and underwriting the temple, then I'll let him build it. And that's exactly what happened. And David did that and prepared Solomon for that moment. And so this is a huge moment in Solomon's life, in the life of Israel. And can I just tell you, it's a prosperous moment. It's not a painful moment. It's a moment of abundance and joy and celebration. In fact, in 2 Chronicles, you can see that they are celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles. We studied that a few weeks ago when Jesus was celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles in the book of John. He said, I am the light of the world. And that happened. And so here is another ancient moment in which the nation of Israel is celebrating that celebration where they're remembering how God carried them through the difficult days of their life, 40 years in the wilderness, and brought them to the promised land. And now it's a time of abundance and prosperity. And the temple's being built. And it says that even while that's being built and the celebration's going on, that Solomon builds himself a brand new palace. He gets a new house out of the deal as well. So that's kind of nice, if you're ever a king, if you get a palace. So anyway, Solomon builds the palace, and here's what it says, is that God visits him and speaks to him. And he tells him something that seems so opposite of what's being experienced. Here's what he says to him. In verse 13 of that passage, he says, at times, it's God speaking to Solomon, at times I might shut up the heavens so that no rain falls, or command grasshoppers to devour your crops, or send plagues among you. Now, I want to just tell you, this isn't the news that Solomon was hoping to hear. But God's underscoring a principle here. He's helping us understand that these difficulties are a part of the human existence. Not because he planned them that way, but because we chose sin. You know, if I could go all the way back to the beginning, Genesis chapter 3, it says that Adam and Eve, they looked at a tree in the Garden of Eden that God said, you can have everything you want except that tree. And unfortunately, they disobeyed God and they took from that tree as well. And you probably know the story. That choice created a crisis. That choice introduced sin into the world and for all of us. And we've all chosen it. Romans chapter 8 says we've all fallen short. We've all done the same thing. We've chosen to organize ourselves against God. That what God is outlining here is that humanity who chooses to organize themselves against God by sinning and rebelling against him they're going to receive the results of that action. And God says, I want you to hear this correctly. Here's the interpretation. God's not saying, I'm coming for you. God is saying, when you choose sin, you step outside of my protection and you step into the vulnerability that sin creates for your life. Solomon, everything's good right now. Everything's all right now. But can I just tell you, Solomon, history repeats itself in people choosing sin over me. And when that happens, and the effect of that sin, the collective sin of the world, all of us living in a cursed world, when that happens, he's not coming to tell you how bad it's going to be. He's actually coming to tell you how good it can be in spite of. God says, listen, this could happen to your life. I don't know about you, but I can't see your raised hand right now. I wish I could, but let's just play along. Church online, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be new. I don't know about you, but have you ever had a moment and when you felt like you needed provision for something and it wasn't there? Come on, like we need the rain to fall. The ground is dry. You know what happens when rain doesn't fall across the earth is wildfires break out. You know, wildfires were never an intention of God. Never would have happened without sin. I don't know about you, but there are times in which I put some trust and some hope in what I could create in my own security, in my own finances, and the things that I owned and the relationships I had. And I realized, you know what, all that can go away and be devoured in a moment. I also know this, sickness is a part of life. We're facing a pretty difficult one right now globally. Isn't it interesting that all of humanity is focused in one direction right now because of this crisis? What do you think God would say as a result of that? He would say, you know what? There might be some times as a result of living in a broken world with broken results that we experience some pain. And the good news is the story doesn't end there. The very next verse, God gives Solomon the point in bringing that up. And the point is this. Then, in that moment, in that disparity, in that difficulty, in that moment, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, and they will seek my face, and they will turn from their wicked ways. The reason I wanted you to see that is the wicked ways are the cause to the effect of the awful things that happen around the globe. Now, here's some of you go, Pastor, are you telling me the coronavirus is because we're all sinning? I'm telling you not someone or some group sinned and it caused an epidemic. I'm saying the collective whole of sin on this earth has produced pain and consequence and illness, and it's our reality. But God speaks into that and he says, I have a way out. I have a plan of not letting that stuff get in here and get you and get your spirit. I have a plan. He says, if you'll do that, I will hear from heaven and I will forgive your sin and I will restore the land. Do you know what I see, church? I see a king in 2 Chronicles chapter 7 that didn't have that going on. He didn't have a difficulty. He had prosperity. He was accomplishing something that pleased God so much that God said this to Solomon. It's not part I'm reading. You can go read the rest. He actually said to Solomon, I love this place so much that you've helped build here. I'm going to put my presence here forever. That's how much I love what you've done here and worshiped me and sacrificed for me and shown your devotion to me. But he says, but listen, remember, I'm your way out of this broken world. Remember, there still are moments that can come that are going to be very difficult, unlike this moment. And when that happens, Solomon, just don't forget, you got to call the people who are called by my name to pray and to seek me and to turn from. And if that happens, I'm telling you, redemption comes. Can I just tell you, church, right now, I'm hopeful in the words of my God. And I'm going to stay hopeful in the words of my God. That this setback across our globe for all kinds of ways and from all kinds of variables is really just a set up to experience more restoration than we've ever experienced before. To be a louder voice, to be a brighter light, to be a greater impact than we've ever been before. And can I just tell you what the beauty of all this is that God said to us as Jesus arrived, Jesus would contend on our behalf and he would advocate for us and he would heal us of our greatest need, the removal of sin, not just the restoration of land, not just new crops growing again, but the restoration of our souls, of our spirits, being brought back to him. And we were made into the temple of God. And the Holy Spirit indwells us now. And the Holy Spirit will lead us to God's will for this moment, which I believe will be marked by restoration and redemption for mankind. The opportunities are rising. The possibilities are rising. What will we do with it? What will we do with it? Well, can I just tell you, if you need hope to rise or you need hope to stay where it is right now in your heart, I can tell you there's actually something here that God says you and I can do to keep in that place, to keep in a spirit of hope. And here's what it is. Here's my own language for it. Hope rises when I turn to him. You know what you do? Worries, stresses, or victories, or celebrations, whatever you're experiencing in this moment, turn it to him. Turn to God. Some of us just don't even hardly believe that we're allowed to do that. The image of ourselves is so tainted by our own sin and mistakes that we sometimes struggle to believe that we're even allowed to turn to God. Can I just tell you, turning to God is some of the most beautiful invitation you've ever been given. You are allowed to come home to your Father. You're allowed to come home. He says, turn to me. Hope rises not just when you turn to him, but when you talk to him. He wants to hear your voice. He wants to hear, God already knows what's on your heart. He just wants to hear you say it. He wants to hear you say, I need you today, God. He wants to hear you say how grateful you are in spite of. He wants to hear you say today that you're going to devote your day to him. He wants to hear you talk to him. He also wants to hear your questions. He wants to hear your doubts. He wants to hear the things that you struggle with, because when you talk to him, it's better than any conversation you could have with anyone else. He has all the answers. He has all the comfort. He has all that you need. He wants to talk to you. Seek his face. Come after him. Talk to him. And the final thing is, hope rises when we trust him. When we actually leave his presence into the life he's called us to go lead our families and love our neighbors and serve the struggling. And we trust him in the midst of all of that stuff. This is the pathway to hope. Turn to him, talk to him, trust him. I wanted to leave you with this today and just impart this encouragement to you, is that Jesus, and just to tell you a little story about Jesus, you go to Matthew chapter 9, you can read about it, but Jesus was loving people in this world. No doubt he was leading well, he was loving well, he was serving people. In the midst of doing that, he became very close friends with a man named Matthew, and Matthew was a tax collector, and Matthew decided to leave his life and his profession and to follow Jesus and become a disciple of Jesus like full time. He quit everything. I'm just going to follow this rabbi. And it says that as a result, Matthew threw a party one night at his house with Jesus. That's right, Jesus liked parties, the right kind of parties. And Jesus, they threw a party together. And it says in the text that all of these notorious sinners showed up. Like these people were, I don't mean like sinner by general, sin, like we've all sinned. I mean like they were known for their sin. They showed up. They're in this moment with Jesus. They're in this moment with Matthew. And the religious leaders come around them and they say, oh my goodness, can you see what this Jesus guy is doing? And they're irritated and they're fighting with his disciples and they're going, he can't be from God. And Jesus intervenes and he interrupts that conversation, that debate. And he says something I think is so relevant for our lives right now. He says, you know what? He says, gentlemen, if I could just remind you, healthy people don't need doctors. Sick people do. He says, I didn't come here for healthy people. Don't be surprised that at my table is a bunch of sinners. I came to call them home so that they wouldn't be sinners anymore. I wanted to tell you that story because I think that there's a meaning here to what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a literal sickness. Jesus was referring to a spiritual sickness. Here's my prayer. My prayer is that beyond the medical crisis and beyond the mental issues going on and beyond the economic issues that we're going to face and the problems there, I pray that we as a church family, as followers of Jesus, could see the spiritual need first and everything else second. My prayer is that we could lead with faith that says, hey, I know everything else is very difficult and I'm going to step right into those messes and I'm going to serve and I'm going to love and I'm going to do my best to advocate for those who are hurting. But I am doing it and I understand why I'm doing it. The why is healthy people don't need doctors, sick people do. The why is I came to be like Jesus in this moment, in this season. And you know what couldn't be more true about Jesus? Every day of his life, he turned to the Father. Every day he talked to the Father. And every single day of his life, he trusted the Father's will for the moment. May we be more like Jesus in this season than we've ever been before. And may he do something through us that just blows us away because we didn't plan it. We just responded to him as he led us. I want to pray for you today, church. Would you bow your heads with me? Would you grab your family's hands? Let's just spend a moment with the Lord. Father, we are so grateful. We're so grateful that with all that's going on, here we are as your church assembled together in this very moment, gathered together in multiple homes and places, but we're united. And your word says that when we choose to unite ourselves around your truth, that you command your blessing and favor onto unity. And I pray that blessing and favor would be the mark of the Central Life family right now, because we choose unity. We choose to be unified in our commitment to turn to you. We want to be a repentant people who are always willing to confess our sins, that we're not perfect, that we are still turning, that we are still looking to you. I pray that we'd be a people who refuse to go a single day without opening our mouth and addressing you and saying, God, you are great, and God, you are needed in my life, and God, I am dependent upon you. And may we be a people who trust you in this moment when many answers are still being searched out, when many things feel uncertain to a lot of people. May we be a people who trust you, who resiliently trust you for the hour you've placed us in. We love you. We thank you for Jesus, who came to us when we were sick and began to be our healer. We thank you so much for his sacrifice, his love for us. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Ryan, for another great message to keep us on the hopeful and the helpful vein. Our last act of worship is always generosity. There are two ways that you can give. You can go on the website and you can use the Central Life Church app. and just click on the generosity tab. Remember, God's economy is different than the world's. You don't plan your way out of a need, you give your way out of a need, and we have learned at Central Life that generosity brings freedom. Your faithfulness has never been needed more than in an hour like this. So thanks again for joining us. We pray that you have another great week, and we'll see you right back here next Sunday.